Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always. What fascinating corner of the digital world are we exploring today?
Well, you guys sent in a ton of stuff about AGI, artificial general intelligence.
The holy grail of AI research.
Exactly. And, there's a lot of talk about advanced mathematics being the key.
Yeah, I've heard that too. It's not just about building bigger algorithms anymore.
Right. So we're going to try to unpack that a bit today. We've got this fascinating collection of articles, research snippets, even some historical stuff.
This is like a real mixed bag.
It is. We've got the life story of this French mathematician, Jacques Hadamard, some seriously dense theoretical math, and even a touch of Cold War history.
Wow, okay. And we're going to connect all of this to AGI. I'm intrigued.
That's the plan. Let's start with this mathematician, Hadamard. To be honest, my math history is a little rusty.
Yeah, I hear you. It's not exactly light reading.
Yeah.
So who is this Hadamard fella?
Well, he lived through a pretty wild period in French history, wars, revolutions, the works. But he was this brilliant mathematician, made some major contributions.
Like what?
He worked in an area called functional analysis.
Okay. And in layman's terms, functional analysis is.
So it's not about analyzing like how a toaster works.
That's a relief. I was a little worried there.
It's more about studying spaces of functions. It gets pretty abstract, but basically it's a way to deal with functions in a more general and powerful way. Instead of just looking at individual equations, you're looking at the bigger picture.
Interesting. I can see how that might be useful, but how does it connect to AI?
Well, that's the cool part. Hadamard himself wasn't working on AI. This was the late 19th, early 20th century. But his work laid the foundation for some really important developments later on.
Like what?
Quantum mechanics.
Wait, really? Okay, now we're going places. I see where this is going. Quantum computing.
You got it. See, one of Hadamard's students, Maurice Fréchet, took his ideas about functional analysis and really developed them further. And then John von Neumann,
The computer science pioneer.
the one and only. He used those tools, those mathematical tools that stemmed from Hadamard's work, to formalize the math behind quantum mechanics.
Wow. That's incredible when you think about it. This mathematician, working over a century ago, lays the groundwork for a field that would revolutionize physics and now, potentially, computing and AI.
It really shows you how these seemingly unrelated areas of knowledge can be connected in surprising ways.
Absolutely. And speaking of connections, I noticed the category theory keeps popping up in these materials you sent.
Yeah, that one's a bit of a head-scratcher, even for me.
It's not exactly dinner table conversation.
Definitely not. So how do you even explain category theory without, like, a whiteboard full of equations?
Well, imagine you're trying to understand a complex system, like, say, a city. You could focus on individual buildings, streets, the people. Or you could look for the underlying patterns, the relationships between those things. That's kind of what category theory does with math. Instead of focusing on specific objects like numbers or shapes, it looks at the relationships between them.
Okay, so it's like a way of seeing the forest for the trees, mathematically speaking.
Exactly. It helps us find commonality, make connections across different areas of math that might seem totally separate at first glance.
Give me an example. I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Sure. Remember vector spaces from linear algebra?
Vaguely. Vectors, matrices. It's all coming back to me now. Sort of.
Well, in category theory, we can think of vector spaces as objects. And the linear transformations between them, those are like arrows. And together, they form what's called a category.
So we're grouping things together based on how they relate to each other, not just their individual properties.
Exactly. And some researchers believe that this kind of thinking, this category theory approach, could be the key to unlocking AGI.
Whoa, hold on. That's a pretty bold claim.
It is, and we're going to dig into that next. It's funny how some of this stuff that seems like really out there, ends up being surprisingly relevant to the real world.
Tell me about it. We've gone from prime numbers to, like, the mysteries of the quantum universe, all in the pursuit of AI that can, well, think for itself.
And somewhere along the way, we stumbled into Cold War arms control.
That's the one that really threw me for a loop. I mean, how do you even start applying math to something as, like, high stakes as nuclear weapons? It boggles the mind.
Well, back in the thick of it, during the Cold War, there was this mathematician, F. William Lauver. He was working on this really unusual approach to arms control verification.
Okay, this I've got to hear.
So Lauver, he thought, why not use category theory?
Our new favorite, right?
Exactly. He wanted to use it to create a system to verify, make sure everyone was playing by the rules of these arms treaties.
Ambitious.
To say the least, right?
Yeah.
He was really focused on this one concept, the Geary monad.
The Geary monad.
Wow.
Okay, now that sounds like something out of a spy thriller.
Right. It's got a good ring to it.
Yeah.
But in simple terms, it's a way to mathematically tie together probability and game theory.
So, like, figuring out the odds of something happening based on what moves the players make.
You've got it.
Yeah.
It's all about making strategic decisions when you don't have all the information, which, let's face it, is pretty much every decision ever made.
Especially when it comes to global politics, I'd imagine.
Exactly. And that's what makes the Geary monad so fascinating in this context. It lets you model that kind of back and forth, that strategic dance, in a really precise mathematical way.
So Lawfare was basically creating a mathematical framework to, like, analyze the risks of nuclear war.
In a nutshell, yeah. I mean, whether it would have worked in practice, who knows? But what's important is that it shows us how even something as abstract as the Geary monad can relate to a real-world problem, a huge one.
And that problem being managing risk in, like, the most complex system imaginable, global politics.
Exactly. And it's not so different from what we're facing with AI, right? I mean, one of the big challenges is how do we make these systems safe? How do we ensure they behave in ways that are predictable and, actually good for humanity?
Yeah.
Especially as they get more powerful.
Right, because the stakes are enormous.
Absolutely. And this is where those parallels with the Cold War get really interesting. It's like we're dealing with a different kind of existential threat, but a threat nonetheless.
A new arms race, but this time it's artificial intelligence.
Exactly. So maybe, just maybe, there are lessons we can learn from how we dealt with those Cold War anxieties.
Are you saying the Geary monad is the key to AI safety?
I wouldn't go that far. But the underlying idea, this idea of using powerful mathematical tools to understand and model these super complex systems, that's important.
It's like we're looking for the right tools to tackle this new era of technology. And sometimes the most unexpected tools from completely different fields, are what we need.
It just goes to show, you never know where inspiration will strike. One day you're diving into Cold War history, and the next you're contemplating the future of artificial intelligence.
You've said it. This deep dive has been full of surprises.
And we're not done yet. We've covered a lot of ground today, but there's still one more thread to pull on.
Ooh. Don't leave me hanging. What else have we got? All right, let's see if I can sum up this wild ride we've been on. We started with the life story of, well, a mathematician.
A brilliant one, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And that led us to, of all things, category theory, which, even for folks who love to geek out on AI, that's pretty next-level stuff.
It's not exactly entry-level math, that's for sure.
But then we took this detour into Cold War history, arms control, nuclear threats, talk about a blast from the past.
It's amazing, though, how these threads connect, right? You wouldn't think that Cold War strategy would have anything to do with building safe and ethical AI, but here we are.
It really makes you think, and it kind of highlights this one really important point that's been woven throughout all these different topics.
And what's that?
Math. Plain and simple. We can talk about algorithms and data and all this cutting-edge technology, but at the end of the day, it all boils down to math. And often, really, really advanced math that most people wouldn't even know where to begin with.
It's true. It's easy to forget that all this technology, all this stuff we interact with every day, is built on this foundation of mathematical principles and equations.
And the more we try to push the boundaries of AI, especially when we're talking about AGI, AI that can truly think for itself, well, it seems like we keep bumping up against the limits of what we know about math.
We're trying to build something incredible, but we might not have all the tools yet, or even know what tools we need. Like, imagine trying to build a spaceship with just, like, a hammer and nails. You need more sophisticated tools to even begin to imagine, let alone build, something that complex.
That's a perfect analogy. And it makes you wonder, right, are we going to hit a wall with AGI because we need some kind of, like, mathematical breakthrough that we haven't even conceived of yet?
It's definitely a possibility. I mean, look at the history of physics. They needed completely new mathematical frameworks to explain things like quantum mechanics, things that just didn't fit into the existing understanding of the universe.
It's like we're trying to solve a puzzle, but we don't even know what the picture on the box looks like, or if we have all the pieces.
And who knows, maybe in searching for those missing pieces, those new mathematical ideas, we'll end up understanding our own intelligence even better.
That would be the ultimate plot twist. We set out to create artificial intelligence and end up with a deeper understanding of, well, ourselves.
The journey of discovery is full of surprises like that.
Well said. Well, folks, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the life of a mathematician to the potential of category theory, and even, believe it or not, some Cold War wisdom. Hopefully this deep dive has sparked some new ideas and connections for you.
It's been quite a ride. I feel like my brain just did a few backflips.
Mine too. But hey, that's what we're here for, right? To explore these fascinating ideas, no matter how complex or unexpected they might be. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AGI and advanced mathematics. Until next time, keep those minds curious.